Hello everyone, welcome to the Watch Poplars. I just ran here, all the way from home, and I wanted to show you the beginning of the withering season. So I guess I came here late enough that the Toxicodendron diversalobum is just all glory. So this is the earlier ones. Oh, I wish this was ripe. There's a California black oak, Quercus callagii, right there, and you can see, other than different from the valley oak, which has round leaves. I'll try to find a leaf for you. But here's what the acorns look like. They have this kind of Fibonacci sequence on the acorn. And they're not as, they're a lot more blunt. They're a lot blunter. But unfortunately that one's not ripe. It's not the ripe season yet for acorns. I tried growing some California black oak from seed and it did not work. The acorns never sprouted. Even though they felt really ripe, they had no holes in them. But they like the white lichen loves the California black oak. The foliage is very dark and shiny during summer, and then it turns orange in fall. Whereas the valley oaks, you can see, well, the black oaks have a different bark than the valley oaks. This one has a lot more polygonal, more short and compact cracking in the bark. You know, the coast live oak is evergreen. And it's very spiky foliage, hence that's why it's called agrifolia. And that's how the bark fissures. The greener lichen loves the what is that? They call live oaks. And I don't think any of the color you see here is actually the bark. It is the lichen. So there's the black oak. You get a lot of white lichen. These get a lot of green lichen. And those get a lot of moss. They don't really grow lichen on them. Just the moss. I have a bug. I thought it was a tick. But here's one of my favorite plants. Just because it's so beautiful. And also probably because I don't really get a reaction from it. I do get a reaction. And it will get worse if I keep touching it. But I won't touch it anymore. Well, I'll just try not to. But you know, that is beautiful. Pretty poison. No, this is the first time I've worn these shoes. I didn't want to wear my punk shoes, even though they do have the pretty poison. You know, like right here. Well, I drew it. Yeah, everything on those white shoes that I drew is something I drew. But I am noticing this same plant with the weird texture to it. You know, I showed you a few videos back. I don't know how many views it has right now, but I think this plant is native. It's this plant again. I still don't know what it is. But it has it's like sandpaper. It feels like light. It feels like fine sandpaper. It sounds like fine sandpaper. And it turns purple with those anthocyanin pigments. I think it's ANTHO cyan IN. That's how you spell it. You have Lonicera in hispidula, because it is hispid textured. Those hairs that prevent it from drying out and transpiring during the summer, the dry season. You see, there's a lot more of that. It almost looks like fall. You know, if it rained more here, this is what it would look like in September. No doubt. The buckeyes would keep their leaves on more. But, you know, as you get farther from the road, there are there's less influence from human development, which is really nice. Because, you know, I think this I'm not gonna go to the San Pablo Creek anymore to show you, because I've already done that for a full year. Whether I had enough knowledge or not to be able to name off every single species I came across, but this is a lot more scenic, and this is gonna be a long video. It's gonna be like up to an hour long, and I'm gonna go all the way to, you know, the open prairies by the San Pablo Dam. But you have the plantago, a native plantago. I think it is Plantago lanceolata, because it has leaves are lanceolate. Even though they're kind of spatulate, but you know, they end in a tip, so maybe, you know, this is a diagnostic part where, you know, the leaf starts out very skinny and then it broadens, but then it just depends on how it tapers back down to a point. Sometimes I know that there are some plantains. This is not the banana relative, but it is, you know, some of them taper to a point, like the lanceolate one, and then there's ones that just kind of look like a spoon. Yeah, but you still have the invasive French broom. Oh. You know, that's a shame, but there's not a lot of it. But you know, there's a monoculture right here. It's starting. It also looks like it defoliated halfway. They kind of, I don't know if they shed off their last year's leaves or the first leaves that happened in spring. They grow quite quick, so I don't know. But you know, they used to be a lot denser in spring. I want to keep moving. You have Chlorogalum pomeranianum. Yeah, and there's the seeds. Asparagaceae. It's in the asparagus family. Hence why it kind of looks like this. Just a kind of a spindly, leafless thing. The leaves already fell off. But this is a great plant to just collect seeds from, like handfuls of them, and chuck them into your neighbor's lawns, which I actually have done. And I guess that's like the first thing that it would be on my criminal record is throwing seed bombs at people's lawns. And I blurt that out because I'm confident that there is no there's no punishment for that. It's just kind of, you know, savvy, I don't know, teenage recklessness. But really, you know, I just grab handfuls of this and chuck them over the fence or the hedge, because these have a big fibrous tuber in there. Oh god, I have a thing in my finger. I don't know where it came from. Something from here. Yeah, but you can see the old leaves. There's a big tuber in the ground. It's like about that big, and it has fibers on the outside. But if you cut out, if you peel off those fibers, and you kind of, I don't know, well, it releases saponins, which means it's not sap, but it is a thing in the tissue that makes it soapy, just like the Asclepias californica nuts, which have not developed yet. They will be ready to fall off in November. But the Indians used to use these, the nuts for these, and the roots of the soaproot for soap, to either choke fish in the water, because the soap spreads out. You know, when a drop of soap lands in water, you can see that it just spreads out. And that's what happens. It chokes the fish so that they can catch it, and they also use it to wash their hands. Now here, I took a picture of this flower in spring, but the seeds, as much as they seem like they're protected, the purple color in this has completely gone away. There's a native burr here, Apiaceae, the carrot family. Now this is ready to harvest for seed, and it will sprout in late winter. because we don't really have a winter here. You know, the Symphora carpos rotundifolia and the Aesculus californica leaf out in January. And if you were wondering what those are, it's the snowberry, which, you know, oh god, and among the a lovely poison oak. This is like, look at all of this. This is absolutely lovely. I am so glad I got here in time. Look at all the dry season fall colors. I wouldn't call this fall colors. I just call this drought deciduous. But we just have enough moisture that, you know, the fall colors, you know, these dry season colors will merge into the fall colors. It's just so lovely. There's an Artemisia. I don't know if it's native or not, but I think there are definitely Artemisia that are native. But there's also an Artemisia that isn't. But I don't know if that's the herbaceous perennial kind, which is this what it is here. Sends up a big stalk. It flowers. I'm gonna take a picture of that. Yeah, but yeah, this is just lovely. The honeysuckle. There's not a lot of invasive shit here, but there is also a nightshade that I've been very interested in. I think I forgot what it was, but it is here. It looks like it has completely defoliated for the dry season, but you know, with watering, I do think that it would come back out in the leaf just fine. But there's the nightshade. Now, if I break this stem, it kind of smells like Artemisia, but it's not Artemisia. I was seeing if it would smell very pungent, like tomato plants, or other nightshades like Datura, which smell really strong and bad to, well, I think it's kind of interesting. But this is the nightshade. It started with a D, and it's native. It has purple flowers and, kind of bluish green nightshade leaves. You have the, what is it? Oh, I forgot what it is. I think it's in the Dipteridaceae family, the wood ferns. But this is the wood fern. It is deciduous, and I love deciduous ferns. I mean, I love deciduous everything. This place is very deciduous, and you'll notice it's now summer. Up there, it's fall. It's dry, and here, as we enter a riparian zone, it gets very green. So, in late summer, the fall dry season colors will begin up there, and they'll creep down. I guess as the moisture kind of goes down in the soil. Here's the Symphora carpos rotundifolia. It is a native honeysuckle relative in the Caprifoliaceae family of honeysuckles. There's the black raspberry, rubus. I do not know the last scientific name of it, or the second one. The diagnostic name, the species name is what I mean. It looks like an arch. So they have the water when it rains. It gets very wet. Oh, there's a bunch of sedge over there. There's all the sedge. Carex. It is native. It's a native genus of sedges. So here's the soaproot before it goes dormant. Now this was in a more moist and shady area, so there's a lot more moisture underground. But this is what it looks like. The leaves. Now there's a lot of poison oak here. I hope I don't get an ass rash when doing this. But when you feel perpendicular to the leaves, it feels very, very weird, because of the venation in the leaves is very, very pronounced. Again, that's in the asparagus family. Asparagaceae. What is that? Such a weird defected honeysuckle growth. Yeah. It's just a very vigorous honeysuckle shoot with those dark green leaves. Now there's this. This is also in the asparagus family because you have that 3-part fruit. This will eventually turn red, maybe? I don't know. No, I'll turn brown, I think. But this is also in the asparagus family. Parallel veination, as all the asparagus members do. But that's a native one. It gets good fall colors. It's just starting right now. But, you know, if you're watering, you postpone the fall colors for later, more appropriate times of the year. But, yeah, there's also the 9-bark, which I keep forgetting what it is. Here it is. It has maple-like leaves, except it does not have alternate leaf arrangement. Opposite. This is a spiral form leaf arrangement. You go 8 leaves across the stem before there is a leaf in the exact same place as the leaf, 8 leaves below it. So let's see this leaf here. No, this leaf comes out right towards me. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that leaf comes right towards me. So that's how you can tell. You know, all the buckeyes, usually at this time, are getting all brown and withered looking. They look like they're dying. People wonder what's going on. But then they come back in early spring. It's just fine. So they're always a season ahead. But even, you know, when it's wet, they love to keep their leaves. And they will until November if you get enough water. But here, I was just in Oregon, and here there's a southern extent of this species of ash. Now, back up in Oregon, I did not see any nearly this big. This is just a very nice preserved individual of Fraxinus latifolia. This is really nice. This is very inspirational. All of this little area here is probably one of my favorite places in this area because there is a bunch of really mature trees. There's the Platanus racemosa, a California sycamore over there. There's another even larger one here, I think. I don't know, they're really big. Or there's another one over there. But look at the bark. It's all wavy. Really, really huge. And the canopy, it looks like it used, the main trunk broke at some point, but, you know, it probably fell. Those are probably the remains of that big trunk that fell here. But, you know, it used to be a lot larger, and now it's regenerating from the side. The woodpeckers absolutely love it, you can see. Yeah. Symbiosis. The woodpeckers, the tree offers support to the woodpeckers, but the woodpeckers don't do any harm to the tree. Wow. This is huge. It's massive. Platanus racemosa. Look at that. Look, there's like a branch that tore off there. I don't know where it is now. It's probably, you know, based on how much that has rolled over, that wound, it's been a lot of years, like decades, over a decade. So the wood that fell off of that is probably just long gone. I don't know, but yeah, that's really tall. It's probably one of the most prominent trees you'd see on Street View. Google Earth. Not on Street View, but that is so lovely. It is huge. It's, oh god. You know, it's not quite as wide as a car, but that's huge. Now I should move on. We're already at 20 minutes. Something is attacking the ash. There's probably some caterpillars, but I won't disturb them because the ashes do fine. And they're not in pots. They grow. Oh, this is gooseberry. This is in Grossulariaceae of the gooseberries. And then the currants. The currants and the gooseberries are in the same family. They have thorns to detract herbivory. And the thorns turn black after 1 year. They come in threes. And, you know, on the newer growth, there's just one spine per node. Although, no, they actually come in pairs as well. So I don't know. I think, you know, yeah. So they come in a where here. Oh, there's also other spines around, and weird is the stem has swollen, and I don't know why. It's bugs. So the stem is swollen. I don't know why. There's probably an insect in there. But the thorns come in triplets. This is a Baccharis pilularis coyote bush. And it's quite brittle, you can see. But that's going to heal on its own as long as it doesn't tip that way. I don't know why they form these galls. It's probably an insect that bores into there and, you know, prevents it from growing, but also finds a nest in it, and it does not harm the Baccharis pilularis. There's an Elymus. I don't know if this is caninus, but it's a grass. It's like a wheat grass. I don't know if it's native, but they have that kind of seed flower head, and then off of that come the little seeds. They're short, and these grasses stay green throughout the summer, unlike the brome and the oat grasses that are invasive. Also, the Elymus is a perennial. The oats and the bromus is an annual grass, and that's why it dies early in late spring, and all the hills start turning straw-colored when it's still spring and lively outside. Whereas before the invasions of the invasive shit, the hills probably were greener later. You know, not just because it rained more back then, but there's also less early dying invasive brome and ripgut and oat grass. But here's more sycamore and an ash. Here's another ash. You can see that bark. Now, ahead of us, coming up, there is a very interesting place. Now, why is it so fluffy here? Could it be? Is the fluff still here from that massive cottonwood? Oh yeah, you know, I'm gonna say that all this fluff still here from spring, from this huge cottonwood. This is a massive poplar. It's like 60 feet tall. Maybe more. It's very vigorous. And I don't know why. It does not really grow like the native ones do. Whereas, you know, you get like around, you know, those at this height. This tree would be at its full height. It would be arching. The branches would be arching the leaves would, be round and, but this has a different growth pattern. This is very, very upright, where every single branch comes at 30 degrees. I don't know. It's a different kind of poplar. I'll have to check the leaves. I haven't seen the leaves. I haven't, like a fresh leaf. No, there's something here that does kind of look like the native Populus fremontii. Yeah, but I don't know why it's growing so odd, where it's all like that. But that is a large poplar, and I'd be delighted to come here in fall when it is dropping its leaves and turning all yellow. But here, this is Madia sativa, and it's very, very glandular, so that it can prevent herbivory. You can see all the drops of this sticky substance. And in the flowers, a typical Asteraceae flower, which it is in, a composite. These are the ray florets. And in the middle, there are the disc florets, which are the actual compound flower part. So there's just little flowers. This is really cool. I'm gonna take a picture. So yeah, on my hands, can see they're now covered in oil. They're sticky. So all of the glands, they're all along this. Now, this plant kind of acts, it's really smart, because, even the bugs that try to eat it, like right here, they can't. There's a fucking aphid right there. They can't do anything. It's stuck not only in the hairs, which kind of have some of the residue on them, but also there's glands closer to the stem that, you just get stuck. Nothing wants to eat this, which makes this a really pleasant plant to have. I don't know if it is native, but it is definitely not invasive. So I think this would be safe, and you could water this and it'd stay green for longer, and it would delight you with the flowers, which look really nice. Nothing's gonna want to eat it. You could just have a prairie of these. It also smells good. Yeah, oh wow, and it smells good. Most animals, nothing's gonna want to even smell it, but at least to me, it smells quite nice. And I am tempted to try a leaf. I'm not going to, because I don't know if it is poisonous if I ingest it. But here are the snowberries. And yeah, the snowberries, I don't know if they're not ripe yet. Yeah, they'll ripen much later into the season. But there's the flowers. I used to think this was in the Ericaceae family of blueberries, because the flowers, well, the fruits look kind of like blueberries, but actually they don't. But that was my untrained eye before I started diving into the horticulture class that I took. But there are the little flowers. I'm gonna try to take a picture of that. Symphoricarpos rotundifolia, caprifoliaceae. The raspberries, the black raspberries. I've seen some. This is when they're red. That's not when they're ripe. They're not actual raspberries. It looks like these ones already fell. Well, they didn't really mature, but they're. This is such a nice place. This is a really nice place. Oh wait, yeah. There's still more to go before the bridge, which is coming up really shortly. There's a juncaceae. It's a juncus. It's a rush grass. Well, it's not a grass. It's in, I think it's in the Poales order, which is the grass order. But what sets it apart from grass is that it has cylindrical leaves, or you know, whatever these are. They are not blades. They are, if you go a cross section of them, it's a circle. If you do a cross section of these, it's flat. But this is, you see rushes all over the place. They're a lovely perennial plant. Oh, I got spooked by a runner. There's a pear here. How did this pear get here, and what kind of pear is it? I do not think that it's a Bradford pear. I hope not. There's the bark. The moss really likes it. Here are the leaves. The axillary branches off of this year's growth. Hence why you can see the leaves right there. That's how you can tell. If they're not coming out in a bundle, then that means that is this year's growth. If there is a leaf coming out at the base of a branch on a deciduous species, it is, this is all this year's growth. Actually, no. Because right here is a junction between last year's growth and this year's growth. But all the axillary branches terminate in spines. And a lot of rosaceae trees do that. I don't know what kind. Oh, there's pears. There's pears up there. You can see that. So this is probably going to turn all red in fall. Yeah, you can see. There's fucking pears there. That's nice. Yeah, but now we're in the Symphora carpus dungeon here. There's so many Symphora carpus rotundifolia here, and now there's a lot of vigorous shoots here. This isn't what I showed you earlier, where that there was an actual honeysuckle vine that got really long. There's more of the poplar sparkling in the wind. Here's the ash, if anyone wanted to know. Ashes have opposite leaves. They have opposite growth habit because they are in the mint order, Lamiales. So I learned that recently. Yeah, but the leaves have a slight kind of fuzz on them. And so when it rains, the leaves don't just shed off the water. A lot of ashes don't. Because, you know, the hair is just fine enough. It's not so thick that it's waterphobic, you know, hydrophobic, but, you know, they have the opposite leaves. Like, almost every single lamioid has. You know, olives, ashes, you know, those, I think they're in the ashes and olives. I think they're related. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are related. I'm not sure. But olives are also in the Lamiales order. Now, that doesn't mean that they produce a strong scent when you crush them, because they're distant enough from the actual mints and the lamiids, or well, that's the clade. But you know, the family, they're distant enough that a lot of Lamiales orders, plants, species, do not have that herbivory detractant. Really strong smell. But here you can see, oh wow, so from last year to this year, you can see it has grown a lot. It's like, yeah, it's almost 3 feet of growth. I wonder if I'm gonna try some blackberries here. There is a lot of bramble. There's actually more native black raspberry than there are invasive Rubus armeniacus, which you can tell because of the white underside. This is from an area. This is from Armenia. Armenian blackberry. Well, I don't know if it's Himalayan blackberry. You know, I was talking like, it was just, my hypothesis on, if it was a Himalayan blackberry, it would be called Himalayensis or something. Or maybe it would be called, I don't know, indica. Rubus indica, Rubus nepalensis, Nepal. I don't know. Himalayensis. I don't know. But, oh, here's the berries, or whatever the fruit on the poison oak. A striated, kind of hard capsule of seeds. Oh, here's a Rumex obtusifolius, I think. I'm not sure. It could be it. But all Rumex is not native. There's a nice berry over there. I wanted to do that. Now there are 9-bark. There's a 9-bark here. I think it's further up. There's more of the Elymus. Or Elymus. ELYMUS. There's an invasive legume. Lathrina. This is Lathrina. It has big deep purple flowers. It's not the most invasive stuff. Oh, there's flowers over there. You can see, oh my god, you can see that winged stem. And those tendrils. This is a very vigorous vine. Sprawling annual vine. Now there are some flowers here. I could get to them. That would be nice. Because, I don't have a ton of hatred for this kind of introduced plant. It's legume, but look. Big purple flowers. I'm familiar with, oh yeah, that's, wow. There. The same stuff is blooming up in Oregon. Just there's more of it. There our open fields, this understory is the equivalent of their open fields and roadsides because they get more rain. So this is what you would see closer to exposed areas, but this is very not exposed. Here's the 9-bark. Spirally formed leaf arrangements. These are semi-evergreen, I think. Yeah, they're semi-evergreen. I don't know if there's any of last year's leaves. They probably all fell off. But here, it is all done flowering. These are flowering in May. And there's the flower heads with the seeds. Now, I recently collected a bunch of seed from these, and they were ripe. But they will be sprouting next year. I can't go over there to the poplar, but I'm not allowed to, but it's a really nice tree. My nose is so itchy. But here's the willow. They're still alive. I don't know where it fell. It looks like it fell there. There's probably like a root still in there. But I really, because that's the top of it. There's the bottom of the root in the roots. So that part's not in the water. So that made me think that there's still a root in there. That maybe it rooted. Who knows? Maybe this is all just one cutting. But it would be so fun to just kind of wait, just to walk in here. It's so open. Because there's more water upstream. then, you know, there's more like axillary rivers feeding into this, and it's getting bigger as it gets closer to the reservoir over there. You know, I think we have like 10 minutes before I have to be far into the prairies and the open exposed areas, because we're almost there, but we're about halfway, I think. Look at all the sedge. Carex cyperaceae, which is spelled Cyperaceae. You still hear the noises of society in the background, but you're far away from it. And here, there is a non-native orchid that I think I've fallen in love with. Hellebora, Epipactis helleborine, Orchidaceae. It's a terrestrial orchid. It gets fall colors, but they have such a wide, diverse range of when they sprout that when they get fall colors, with this very diverse range as well. There's a native iris. It's Iris douglasii. And you can see the big seeds. There's a bunch of seeds in here. They have 3 parts to the fruit, kind of like a coconut, except it's kind of 6 as well. But yeah, all this is going to be red in the next few months, or pink actually. It's going to be more pink and red and orange. Now here are all the raspberries. There's still some invasive. Oh, this native guy, Helenium. Also known as sneezeweed, but I don't know why the fuck people call it that. Asteraceae. You can still see the ray florets are really tucked back in. Now the disc florets form a more like a ball florets. So this is it's an odd genus of asters, but they also have a winged stem. How many wings do they have? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wings on the stem. Well, they pretty much just have any wings where you know, if this was an opposite leaf plant, then there would be 4. There would be 4 wings on the stem. But this is a really nice native plant that you should have in your garden. If you have a wetter area that gets lots of sun, or no sun, partial shade, partial sunlight is what these guys need. And I'm sure there are a lot of gardens that have that, you know, along your house. Plant these. They're fly pollinated, as you can see, little flies. But they're really nice. They're really nice plants. And I've been collecting seed of these to start in my own garden. Yeah, but yeah, it's all prickles. This is what we need. We need the raspberries, not the blackberries. You see there's a carduous thistle, also called cardoon. There's more of this aster here, Helenium. Oh, seeds. I'm gonna go help this guy disperse. But this is it blooms at such a nice time of the year. It's so lovely. Now I'm gonna start hurrying up. Oh! Some of the fall colors on the poison oak actually turn white. It's just a very pale shade of pink. I'm in a forest of native Monterey pine, and this is one of the very few, very healthy forests of Monterey pine that I've been to, because a lot of the individual trees are dying off because it's getting dry. It's drying out. Oh, look. Pretty poison. But here, there's a lot of damaging, droughts that have killed off a lot of these Monterey pine forests along the reservoir. And the reservoir used to just be thick. When I was a toddler, the reservoir used to be covered in just thick pine forests. And you have these saprotrophic mushrooms sprouting everywhere from like November to May, and now it's kind of dry. And when you drive up Bear Creek Road over there, it's not very, you see a lot more dead trees. Here's another non-native rumex, but there's also a dried out individual of Madia sativa, asteraceae. There's still some green morning glories, and the teasel is all golden right now, which that's not native. The morning glories are happy and they're blooming. The plantains are happy and they're not blooming right now, but they're green. What's this? Looks like Madia sativa as well. Yeah, but the rumex kind of sticks out like the staghorn of a sumac. So it's also a Madia, but it's a different kind of Madia. What's that? There's a seemingly dead plant here flowering. There is a native plant that looks like an invasive sticky weed or something. Not actual, not the one with the whorls and leaves like that, but there's an aster that has prickly leaves. It looks like flatweed. I'm gonna check for ticks. I have not walked through a lot of stuff. I'm just gonna avoid walking through things. Yeah, here. There is a native plant that looks very, very similar to this. Oh, oh God. It's a star thistle. This is Centaria. I think it might be Centaria. It has branched ray florets. They branch out, and then you just got those nasty fucking spines. It fucking hurts. But here there is actually still kind of green here and there. Not just in the surrounding plants, but the grass. Because the grass is also standing upright. There is enough moisture that it's still standing upright. And it's not just kind of flattened along the, up there, it's all flat. Flattened against a hill. Here's the invasive, the horrible mustard. It has such a high germination rate. And, there's a bumblebee right there. I'm surprised it's still blooming. I thought it would be done. It's almost August. But, here, it's gonna take over soon. Up there, everything growing on the dam over there is just mustard. It's horrible. Because they like the disturbed areas. And the dam is disturbed. It's not still soil. It was poured there. It was dumped. And the morning glories are still blooming. Ipomea in the family Convolvulaceae. This is a nice plant to have as well. A native morning glory. Yeah, some of the teasel still blooming. You can see that ring of flowers over there. This is very similar to the pincushion flowers. Except these ones, they trap water in their leaves. So you can drink out of the leaves, technically. It's like a pool of water. They're sessile, which means they go completely around the stem. There's no leaf stem. You can see what I mean. So when it rains, it doesn't really rain when these are sending up these stalks, but if it did enough, then you'd have a pool of water right here. you could drink out of it. But there's the flowers. Looks really nice. These are also blooming up in Oregon. Yeah, really nice. Honeysuckle family, Caprifoliaceae. They're very spiny as well. It's not good to walk through. But it's also, you can see it's forming a monoculture here. Even the basal rosettes, I think they're biennials. Which is why you also see a lot of rosettes on the ground. But most of the ones that have sprouted the stalk have no basal rosette. Unless it's the very, very few individuals that are still green. I think this is Salix exigua coming up. This kind of pale willow. Salicaceae. It's definitely a willow. I think it's Salix exigua. Coyote willow? No, coyote willow is very short. I don't know. Don't get as big as the other willows. This is the red willow, Salix levigata. But they get, they're kind of an well, they're a small tree. They're a small willow. What is that? It's a walnut. Not a shitty tree of hell. It would be nice to see some of the epilobium. It's a very spindly, you hardly see it. It has I think it's Epilobium lanceolata, I don't know. But it has very, very slender leaves, very skinny stem, very tiny flowers. So it goes unnoticed very, very easily. But that's because they gotta bloom in the summer when the sun's beating down on them, and there's a the ultraviolet light is very tough, and so they had to reduce their surface area so that they can still thrive while also have enough surface area. Or plants can even just go completely leafless and photosynthesize through the stems. Most plants here don't do that. But the epilobium does do that. Well, it doesn't abscess its leaves. But it does have a very, very skinny profile, and that helps it. Large leaves, large, wide leaves. They're not covered in a thick layer of wool or fuzz or trichomes, and indumentum are gonna dry out really quickly. And you'd only see those in wetter areas. But there are some cacti that have a whole bunch of wool over them, and that's because they grow in very harsh areas where the sunlight is very intense, and they need to dilute their light as much as possible so that they can not transpire too much. So that's or you get a bunch of annuals like the oats, which is right here. These are the oat grasses. Avena is the genus of oats. These are completely bone dry. A lot of them have been flattened, and they just kind of slowly collapsed, or just, they don't spring back up. They just stay flattened along the ground like that. That's how you can tell they're just bone dry. Here, there's probably some grass that is staying alive because, all this stays, it keeps the ground more moist, I guess, unless it's just sucking all the water up. But, it looks kind of cool. All the teasel, you can still see last year's stalks are gray. All the gray ones are the last year's ones. Now I'm gonna try to approach this area. I'm gonna not get too close because this is private property. Oh, coming up here. It might continue, but I'm not gonna keep going because, you know, I'm almost at an hour. Before I head out and go back home, I want to show you the invasive mustard. There are a lot of brassicas that look very, very similar. And actually, this is not even done blooming yet. There's still some new buds that haven't opened yet. But it's in the family Brassicaceae, in the order Brassicales. And I don't know how more deeper or shallower it goes on from there, but, you know, in the phylogeny of the brassicas. But that is the invasive mustard, and you are watching the watch poplars. So thanks for joining me here among the watch poplars.